the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is EDtech, episode number 20, recorded Thursday, September 19th, 2013. All right, Mr. Chairman. This is EDtech, the education-focused podcast put on to you by the fine folks at AVNation. They're really nice guys over there. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host, and I'm also a technology manager. So are the fine, smart gentlemen that join me each and every month. First and foremost, from the University of California, Los Angeles, his name is Greg Brown. How are you, sir?
I'm here, alive and well.
You are here, thankfully. It's like 70 there, year-round, so...
Actually, it's 69 degrees, so I have a jacket standing by.
And a muffler and something else. The other extreme of that, his name is Scott Tyner. He works at Bates College in the beautiful state of Maine. How are you, brother?
I am doing fantastic, and it is indeed a beautiful state.
What'd you say?
I said, speaking of
I was going to say,
no,
Greg Brown's whispering something in
Greg,
the background.
I know,
it's my turn to talk.
This is true. And last but not least, we affectionately refer to him as Mr. Silverman, and I'll explain that in a second. His name is Matt Silverman. He works for George Mason University. He does an awful lot with Infocom International as well, the chair of the Standards Committee and a whole lot of others. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Got a little bit of California weather today, 74 and sunny. And
oh, wow. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Real quickly, a very nice gentleman from the University of Alberta sent Mr. Silverman a message here and just said that they listened to us up there at the University of Alberta, so we wanted to say thank you to Ian and everybody else that listens to us, and hopefully your AV meeting goes well, because they said in their note that this is recommended listening prior to their monthly AV meeting. So hopefully your meeting goes well, guys. So this month we're going to talk about a couple different things. But we're going to talk about biometrics and the whole scanning your fingerprint thing, i.e. the whole new iPhone. Also, Mr. Tyner has a poem that I'm not going to make him read, but we're going to get into some back to school horror stories and talk about mass notification. First up, though, is we're going to talk about Casio. Not the first time we talked about Casio on this show or the other ones as well. They've got their whole lamp-free projectors. They're very nice. You've got lasers. You've got this, that, and the other. And now they have an extended value warranty program. Now, before you get too excited, it's not free, right? This is in essence an extended warranty. You can buy it, knock yourself out, and I'm sure you buy it from the same integrator, the same company that you're going to buy the projectors from. You can get up to 5 years on the whole thing altogether. You can get 5-year warranty on this projector. Matt, we'll kick it off with you. Is this? I mean, why do we need 5 years? I guess. Is the best way to put this. Why do we need 5 years on a lamp-free projector?
Well, I think just having your projector under warranty is a great thing. If you look at us, George Mason uses a 5-year duty cycle for a projector. So being able to have a projector under warranty for its entire lifespan is great for us. And I will say the whole idea of a 5-year warranty, particularly in the education space, is actually a little bit of catch-up. I think Epson and NEC and then Panasonic, I think actually Panasonic has a 5-year standard or something like that. And I know Epson has a purchasable extended warranty in this space. It's kind of old school in the education space, but it's definitely useful because it means, at least for your core projector, and in this case the entire kit and caboodle, since it's lamp-free, you just don't have to worry about if it breaks. And if you have a 5-year lifespan, which is generally what I've heard most people in higher ed use. 5
years?
5 years? Okay, maybe. Most of us in Virginia use 5 years. I don't know about the rest of y'all. But, in a 5-year lifespan, it means you never have to worry about warranty issues on your projector.
Okay, but for those of us that aren't Actually, Scott, we'll go with you. What is your life cycle for projectors? Let's start with that.
Ours is 6 years, and it's interesting. I think that this is so funny when we talk about warranties, because a couple of years ago, if you would ask me about warranties, we had less staffing, and honestly, for me, it was more work to deal with warranty issues than it was to just take a new projector and put it up. So the warranties didn't matter to me as much back then. Now that we actually have the appropriate number of staffing, and we actually have somebody who can take it, repair it, get it back, they become more and more important. It's really nice, as Matt said, if you've got a warranty that covers your entire replacement cycle. The question for me is whether or not it's enough to get you to switch who you use. I don't use Casio, frankly. I've never heard of anybody who does. So I don't know if this is going to do that. I thought we were talking
another company we pissed off.
No, I mean I thought we were talking about watches from the 1984s when this first started.
Oh, very nice, very well done.
But I just so it's not going to get me to switch.
All right, Greg. We'll start with you again. The same question. What is your refresh cycle?
Greg just prefers to whisper in the background.
He does. He's a Californian. What do you expect?
What are these 5 and 6 year replacement cycles of which you speak? Sound like some hoity-toity private university.
I was gonna say, what do you do every year, California boy?
I have I've got my worst right now are like 40 some odd NECs I have that are over 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of them, they're all coming up, either coming up on 8 or have passed it. And
well, hang on for a second. Do you have a refresh cycle? I mean, is that?
No, it's kind of a little bit more random than that. We had some really crappy projectors a couple years ago, and I won't throw ASK Proxima or InFocus under the bus, but we had a whole bunch of those that we just had to rip out after. Those came with 2-year warranties, and a number of them died 2 or 3 months outside of that 2-year warranty. So we were wholesale ripping those out. And I think and so it's been a little bit more that really made it a little bit more ad hoc for us. The NECs that I think we've had 2 fail now, just kept soldiering on. So in a sense, we have been ignoring them. They'll probably be my last 4x3 projectors, and we've just been, replacing the problem children basically first. And so. What Casio's doing here is neat, and to give them their props, I saw them at a little local trade show here just the other week, and they have a 4K Lumen version now to battle the Sony. I'd love to see them both head to head. I mean, they aren't full laser like the Sony is, and their source material that they were using was markedly absent of green, which is kind of where these no green in the original material, such that you're not showing us any good examples of like grassy fields or stuff like that. It seems to be the green where these hybrid laser LED projectors get kind of funky, but they're letting you buy a 4th and 5th year, and that's great. That's about the only place I think the projector companies can compete now. I mean, aren't we all kind of a little hard pressed to buy a bad projector these days?
No.
Oh no, you could do it in
No. Okay.
And we are actually, I feel a little superior to Mr. UCLA here. We have a refresh cycle. Ideally, according to the powers that be.
We don't need no stinking
I know
refresh
you don't.
cycle.
You just pull the money out of your back pocket and just wave it around and get a pallet of Sonys or something. We have a refresh cycle of about 8 years. That is our goal. Currently, and this is not to pat myself on the back, but our entire team, we're at 7 years. Based on retiring some rooms and this, that, and the other. And I made mention the other day on another show that we have a couple buildings that are they were built in the 1830s. So Some of those rooms have been retired as classrooms, and so you get to harvest those back. And so we're about 7 years, which is kind of cool. So to me, this whole Casio thing, I'm flying without a net for 2 years. I'm flying without a net for 4 years. To me, that's no big difference to me, and that's why I was like, okay, cool. I go back to Scott's point, though. You're right. They're trying everything they can to get people to go to jump ship. You wrote a very nice piece about it was a reference to dating when it comes to manufacturers. And I agree with you. There are certain things that it's not suck in a rut. You find something that you like about a company. Either it's the rep, or it's the product, or it's both, or it's the price point, or it's everything. And good Lord, unless somebody comes out with the latest greatest thing and it's well under the price point you're already paying, I'm not going to switch.
They've got to do something, and I don't even know if this would do it. If Casio was giving away a lifetime warranty, with including lamps.
Well, it's lamp free, so there you go.
Oh, yeah. Well, I see. Yeah. Even then, I don't know. Even then, it's like, geez. It's just it's a lot. We use NECs. We've got an NEC certified tech on staff. So it's just tough.
And you guys, that means you guys are heavily invested in that. I mean, you guys are all in.
Right, and it's for the most part treated us well. So.
Well, I think it's something to think about. And Scott's articles were really spot on. We have to start thinking about, for those of us who have large campus environments, higher ed or otherwise, really looking in the same way people invest in IT architectures and AV architectures. It's not just the cost of changing product. There's an overall cost. What does it do to your support model? How many more SKUs does it make you stock? If you do your own programming, how many new modules do you have to write? And I think a lot of times our industry gets stuck in this hang it and run mentality for installation, where we as technology managers really have to look at the lifetime costs. And you can change product, but it's a detailed, structured evaluation where you're looking at a long-term return on investment when you make that decision. And there has to be some factor which really says now's the time to change. We looked at, things like what do lampless projectors really give us, because they're, more expensive than lamp projectors. And we know what our bulb utilization is over a lifetime. It's about 3 bulbs, give or take. And, maybe we could have saved $20 to $30 in a lifetime, but that meant recoding everything, stocking parts for the 5 years while we shifted models. There just really wasn't a return for the university on making a switch.
Right, and even the coding is a great point. I'm sorry, Greg, because just like I said, we've been using NEC, and honestly, we've been using the same module. I'm guessing for 5 years. So as long as we know to get the baud right, we can swap out projectors all day in every room and never touch the programming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm guessing you're probably like us, where you've actually enhanced the default module to make it work for your campus.
Right. Yeah, we've done some things that we would definitely have to go back and not just change, but rewrite, and and figure out just the little quirks that everything has.
Yeah, these are primarily right now still a small room projector, although they're starting to move up there in brightness. And I basically have 3 projectors, a big one, a medium size, and a small room projector. And our current small room projector that we've been buying is now coming with a lamp that's good for 6,000 hours. And a lot of these smaller rooms, they don't see the sort of daily, every hour use that some of the big and medium size auditoriums see. And we're sort of wondering in some of these smaller rooms whether on those 6,000 hours, whether we're actually ever going to change the lamp on some of these projectors.
No, and that's a good point, especially if you ever do come up with a refresh cycle, it'll probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 years, 6 years. You should look into that. You should have a meeting.
And my final piece on that is that, as we've said before, these companies are so competitive that if NEC or Epson feels as though Casio is really causing a threat to their business, they can do the same thing.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you've got to look at the long term. I switch today, and in 6 months, the company that I've been working with all along does the same thing.
Yeah, that's at least that's the hope that we all hang on to. And real quickly, guys, and this is kind of a little same topic, but different types of companies. What about video infrastructure and control infrastructure and asset management infrastructure? Whether you are an Aurora guy or a AMX guy or a Crestron, whoever, you have so much time, and we talked about modules. Those are inherently Crestron, you shouldn't say inherently Crestron things, but that's what I think of. When I think of modules, we get so incredibly invested in these companies and their products, and either they start doing things that are either out of the ordinary, or the company starts failing, or the company starts going downhill, or somebody else comes up with a holy cow, this is the best thing I've ever seen, and you wait for 6 months, or you wait for a year, or you wait for 2 years. And the company that you're invested in already isn't doing anything. They keep promising and promising, but nothing really ships. At what point do you say, okay, I'm going to leave you and go over here and start the process of switching over my 300 rooms to the other company?
That's one of my big fears, and it's something I didn't write about because I wasn't sure how to do it. That we can probably both name two of the biggest companies out there that are privately owned.
Yep.
And we all are getting older, including the owners of those companies. And someday there's going to have to be a transition. And what does that mean?
It's going to be painful. I mean, a good example stepping outside of that is look at what happened when Cisco bought Tandberg. You still can get decent product, and we use it, but some of the things we were used to, some of the support we were used to, changed. Mm-hmm. And everyone at some point has to do an evaluation. What is that cost of transitioning?
Yeah.
Personally, I like to be aware of, even if I'm not buying it, what other companies are doing. And I sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, and the other thing I'd say is I just really hope, it's particularly in the control space, we see more and more transition towards structured IT programming languages. So if we ever in a point where we have to transition, at least your programmer can move, somewhat fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it necessarily has to be that family-owned transition into the next generation type thing. I mean, not to throw them under the bus, but look at the whole thing AMX went through with the Panja thing there back 10 years ago. Jeez. That had a lot of people really kind of freaked out. It's like, where did my control system company go, and why are you changing all the equipment on us?
Right.
Yeah.
So a public company can do just as weird sort of a thing, I think.
And that's the big fear. And so the question is it irresponsible for any of us, if we're doing it, to be running one platform when, and I always, and you could look at, Skype. Well, Microsoft bought Skype, and I think they've changed some things, but, it's still pretty much the same. So you don't know. It was food for thought, and I think it's an interesting conversation.
It's a very interesting conversation because you're making a good point. Is it irresponsible for any of us to be running one and to run with one company? Yes and no. I mean, the reason that we do is because it streamlines our work days, right? It streamlines our processes. Who here wants to maintain
Some
and support?
Some of us aren't running with one company. Some of us jumped whole hog into having two different control system companies over the last year.
Well, what about two or three? I mean, here's the thing, guys. Who was it? Not Geffen. University URC. they're coming out with not just obviously remote controls, but they're coming out with their own automation system. Geffen has an automation system for crying out loud. So do you go with a dozen? Do you go with half a dozen? I mean, you're right, Scott.
You have to balance efficiency that you get from a single architecture with agility. Let's step out of the AV realm for a sec, because the IT realm has gone through this a lot. Take a look at companies like Novell. How many of our campuses were Novell, network operating systems if you go back 10 years? I know we were. We went through a very painful transition, and somewhat still going through it, from Novell to Microsoft. And I know one of the things that frustrated me greatly about some of the decisions that were made at George Mason on the IT side is, for just those reasons of fear and agility, we chose not to go with a wholly Microsoft environment. So we implemented a little bit of A, a little bit of B, and a little bit of C, and really didn't end up meeting either our support needs or our users' needs.
Holy Microsoft, Batman.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that with a W or is that HOLEY?
Oh, leave Mr. Silverman alone.
Yeah, it is. It's such an interesting thing to think about.
That'd be a W, by the way, but yes.
Okay, that's how you spell that.
Nice.
Yeah, I think wholly with an H in Microsoft, I think most people would say we're going in the wrong direction there.
No, HOLEY.
Yes.
Yes, whatever. That's what
Not
I'm saying.
HOLY.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, moving on. This story came across my desk. I think it was from you, Greg, and I just kind of had to shake my head, but I get it.
I think I know where we're going.
Bulletproof whiteboard, y'all.
I saw that. It's like I don't know what the hell we're gonna say, but we got to talk about this.
Okay, well, first of all, it's made
and I hope everybody saw the video.
Yeah, the link will be on the show notes here. It's made by a company called Hardwire LLC, and they started out making stuff for the military. So the next logical jump is to make stuff for the classroom, obviously.
Hire it, yeah.
And I'm just wondering how long. I mean, do you think we're going to see this at InfoComm next year on smart boards? Bulletproof smart boards. Greg, have we gotten to the point where this is a necessity? I guess.
I really think it's more of a comic relief item than anything else.
Right.
I mean, go in and watch the video. I mean, they literally have a dummy holding it up in front of them, and they put slugs into it. It's great. First of all, how many people teach? It's what, like 18 by 20 or something like that. Yeah. And so you hold it with one hand, and then you write on it with the other. And I think I've only really ever seen teachers do that in advertisements where it shows how the manufacturer thinks teachers really teach. I mean, how many? I'd be curious if anybody has ever seen a teacher do that. That seems terribly awkward. Yeah. I mean, we write on boards in all of our circles, I think, for the most part. So you're not typically going to be holding a board like that in that way. And besides, if somebody starts shooting, I mean, your first reaction is to go run and get your whiteboard? I don't know.
This, it's stupid, and whoever's paying money for those should be fired. And here's what I'm going to be honest.
Scott,
I think I've met. I don't know if I've ever met Tim in person, but for the other two who have seen me, that whiteboard ain't covering me. I will die. I will die even with that whiteboard.
Scott apparently suffers from the same disease I do. So.
I would have more like hitting the person over the head with it than holding it in front of me.
Or throwing it like Captain America's shield.
And Ian, wouldn't you love it? So the faculty member survives, but the 30 people in the room, it's so stupid. It's just stupid.
Yeah. Besides, if you are going to have the wherewithal and the opportunity to hit them with something, screw the whiteboard. I'm going for the 50-pound fire extinguisher or something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. The fact is, there's much more sophisticated and smarter ways to secure our places than a tiny little bulletproof whiteboard. It's dumb. Sorry.
Well,
I'm done.
No, you're fine. Here's the, and I understand the comic relief part, but I actually had somewhat of a serious question. And Matt, we'll kick it with you on this one.
Mr.
Silverman, yeah. So the technology is there, the possibilities are there. Could we see this moving into a smart board, like the little portable smart boards that are on wheels? In which case, guys like me could sit behind them and not get hit. And then at that point, is the selling point of the device saving the life, or is it the fact do they sacrifice it looking good for the fact that it'll save, it'll stop bullets?
I guess I kind of hate being the serious foil on this one,
Sorry.
but
then don't. I mean,
yeah, no, I guess because we've had some major incidents in Virginia, and there was actually a recent incident in D.C. Not too long ago. And the thing that strikes me about this is marketing people need to stay out of security, because this really, to me, seems like someone should have had a quality conversation with their marketer and just let it go. But it's something actually that I see a lot that we get pulled into, which is, at least I don't consider myself a security professional. And when it gets to this stuff, really making sure the right people get involved and the qualified people, because I sadly could see someone on some committee that I'm involved with at the university say, hey, we should add these to a classroom, or, even if they had, I'm not quite sure how one would make this interactive, but that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. And at that point, it really stops being technology and it starts being something else. So I guess I look at it as being a little bit outside my purview.
Okay.
Well, I think also we have to maybe acknowledge the elephant in the room here, that in a lot of our circles. Oh, gee, thank you, Scott. But if anybody is the elephant, that in a lot of our circles here in higher ed, I think, doesn't it often come down to, somebody keeps their job because they did something rather than somebody did something that made a lot of sense and was the right thing to do. I mean, our answer here, everybody, since Virginia Tech has jumped on the doing something at their campus to address that issue. And so, we put, I think I've mentioned them before, we put, a handful of these voice of God speakers on a bunch of buildings across campus here. And so, when something goes on, you get this great big loud and so the joke we always make is that the shooter or somebody just has to get on campus and trigger that and get the speakers to go off, and we'll all run outside to see where we can understand what it is that it's saying, and he'll shoot us then because we can't understand it inside any of the buildings on campus.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of security, that leads us into our next one. Scott wrote a good piece, actually a second piece, on security. And Scott, we'll kick it off with you. Matt made the point of different people getting involved. Who should be involved in security talks and mass notification talks when it comes to different campuses, and does it differ based on the campus?
Well, I think the actual title will differ. I think, in my opinion, it should be led by your director of security, the highest person in your security office. I think your infrastructure people should be involved. I think your desktop support people should be involved, because there's actually a lot of software out there now that sends alert messages to the desktop. I think certainly in AV with digital signage and some of the things I wrote about with cameras and microphones and touch panels, we can help get the word out. And I think that, of course, your dean of faculty or provost, somebody from that office, needs to be involved. But certainly, as Matt said, it needs to come from a thoughtful security leader and professional who says, here's the things that make sense. How do we do it?
That makes sense. Greg, when it comes to this whole talking about security, who is then I guess, ultimately responsible? Is it that head of security, the highest level of security?
My understanding was this was all done by our facilities department. What we've done, I mean, we have remember, we're the folks with the 34 IT departments or whatever it is that we've got right now, where I believe they looked at some IT-based solutions and they just weren't going to happen with our network system. And that's why they went to, the big loudspeakers on the roof that nobody can understand.
Wow. Well,
so I don't know what to tell you.
Matt, then, if that was a horrible decision, by the way, who should make that decision, Matt?
Well, I think it's actually very similar to the whole, how does the classroom get designed conversation. Is you get requirements from your security experts, and hopefully there's an opportunity to work with them on pairing the right technology solution. It's the whole my thing, which I said about the boards as well. When marketing gets involved with security, you generally get sold stuff you don't need, and I think we've all seen that happen.
I think when marketing gets involved, you get sold stuff that you don't need.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think we can very much help them. Particularly, I know there's some new stuff coming down in the National Fire Code about whether or not. About intelligibility of sound and coming out of enunciators. So that's a place where we have some expertise that we can help with. And there's definitely ways we can assist with this, but I don't know how we're structured if any of us really have, security in our mandate.
There are already questions on the intelligibility standards starting to pop up in some of the Infocom certification tests.
Yeah, and what is it, NFPA 74 or something like that?
Yeah. I had no idea what the answers were.
But did you pass the test?
Yes.
Oh, my. And that's why you got the Charlie Brown speakers. All right. You are listening to EdTech. Thank you so much for doing so. Greg Brown is here from UCLA, Scott Tyner from Bates College, and Mr. Matthew Silverman from George Mason University. Mr. Matt Silverman. How many of you guys are iPhone users? Are all of you? Any of you?
I am.
You are.
I am.
I still have a little
droid, baby.
I have a little droid.
I'm sorry.
A Galaxy S4. It's a nice one. I like it. So the new iPhones came out, and along with it came the new fancy schmancy almost worst kept secret, is the fact that they have a fingerprint reader. Yay! Because I had one of these on my IBM back in 1984. No, I shouldn't poke fun. It is kind of cool. The little home button is now is the home button, right, Scott? That is now the fingerprint reader.
I believe it is.
And that got us talking over email about biometrics and things of that nature. Scott, we'll kick it off with you on this. Are we ready for stuff like this in the classroom or on campus?
Yeah, I think that the thing I think is interesting about this is not necessarily about Apple and the iPhone. I think they're not even the first one really to come out with kind of mass marketing for it. We've seen it on laptops before and the like. And I think you're going to see two fields of opinion. One is this whole thing of I don't want to give my fingerprints to anybody. And for me, I had worked in public schools in Maine where you need to be fingerprinted. I've gotten other things that have need to get fingerprinted for. So my fingerprints are there out in the world, right? So I don't care if I give my fingerprint to Apple or to anybody else. What I really think about it, though, and I don't know how many years down the road this is, but on the touch panels right now, we have buttons that a faculty member can walk in and hit Scott Tyner, and boom, just everything that they love happens for them.
Yes.
And so why not a fingerprint, a thumbprint, an index fingerprint, just to do the same thing? Because it is funny how we joke about this, but really, Bates makes me put a passcode on my iPhone, and it just annoys me that I have to type in those 4 numbers every time I want to use my. It's 3 seconds of my life, but it just seems like God, I got to do that, and then I get it wrong every now and again because my fingers are cold. I'd like it, and I think that I know I'm ready for it, and people can have my fingerprint. I don't care.
Yeah, but the question is, do they
provide?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do they provide that phone for you? Is that why they're requiring a
Yes.
password on it?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Provided phones. Now there's a benefit.
Yeah, mine's provided as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of those hoity-toity private universities,
Yeah,
must be nice to have a budget.
Me and Greg live in the public sector.
I'm a public university.
Oh, that's right. You are. George Mason is. Yes.
Yes.
There's a reason I've got a Droid 3.
Yeah,
Well, it's 'cause your senior administrators travel a little bit there, Greg.
Pardon?
It's because your senior administrators travel a little bit there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. We didn't cover that, did we?
All right.
Yeah, it was a big fiasco over some of the University of California folks spending lots and lots of money on travel.
Well, you know what? If they cut that down, you could get an iPhone.
I'll talk with them about that.
Good. See how that goes for you. Matt, are we ready for biometrics, retinal scans, and fingerprints?
I think if it works, I think there's definitely a place for it, particularly in what we do. I agree with Scott, the whole concept of having a customized system or having that as being your way to work. What I found historically, I had that same IBM that you mentioned, that it worked, about every seventh time or something like that. If you tilted the ThinkPad just right and you pushed your thumb down just so, maybe. My guess is if Apple's rolled it out, they got this working, which is fantastic. Now it's just up to other people getting something that mainstream. I mean, I remember at least one touchpad that this has been on now for about 4 or 5 years, and even the manufacturer says it's there, but they don't recommend it. So I think we'll see it eventually. I think we'll probably see NFC being the first way to do identity management in AV before we get to biometrics, though.
And see that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That was going to be my next question to Greg. Is are we there, or are we going to have NFC or some sort of RFID reader instead of biometrics, where you walk into the room and instead of hitting anything, it just magically, does the preset?
I don't. Those things are coming, certainly. My crystal ball hasn't revealed an ETA yet. I don't think the fingerprint readers are that this is a grand finale for them by any stretch. I have a Lenovo ThinkPad that's about 6 months old that I absolutely love, that has a fingerprint reader that works like an absolute champ, like 90% of the time, and I love it, and it's really convenient, and I don't understand what all the debate is about, really, because your fingerprints aren't leaving the device. It's all being figured out inside the device, and they work now. And if anything, it's taught me that if you get a bad day where like your hand is like really dry or something, it will start to have problems. And boy, I'm really screwed because I can't remember my type-in password.
Yeah,
it's 1111.
I think I upgraded to 1234.
Oh, good for you.
Very good. Nice. All right, moving on. The ICE locking HDMI. I only mention this because I hate the HDMI connector, and this is something that's actually kind of cool. ICE is a company that makes HDMI cables. According to the press release that we'll put a link to, I don't think this is a press release. This is more of a promotional thing. They are introducing the Clear Series 2 HDMI cables at CEDIA 2013, which is, according to this recording, we're recording on Thursday the 19th of September, about a week from now. So if you get out there, take a look at these things, because I would be interested to see how these things work. Anybody else excited about
They're not the first one.
I know.
Kramer already has something just like this.
So we've actually used a locking connector in a project this summer. And well, it didn't go as well as we hoped. And you don't want to give it to faculty or students to plug their laptops into, because In a active learning classroom, we had 24 stations. Apparently, we've already destroyed 3 out of 24 cables.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, were they the like this, the passive high friction torque, or the type, or were they the ones with the little slider that really locks?
They're the slider type.
Oh, those are freaking dangerous, guys. If you put those in and you move the little slider, you could spin the equipment around by the cable, and they are not coming out. Oh yeah, let's give people 2 identical connectors, one that locks and doesn't come out, and one which just slides out. This is a freaking brilliant world we live in.
So I as I read this news release and listened to you guys talk, I wonder, do you guys actually try and swing your equipment around? Because I've built racks, but the guys that work for me do. And honestly, we've never had an HDMI cable just fall out of a rack that's built.
Never?
No.
No. I would agree with Scott.
See, and I do all the time.
So I'm just not really sure what the problem. I mean, I know they're not great. We love locking stuff like BNCs,
yes.
But they go deep enough that they don't just kind of
Being the I think the only CTSI holder on the panel.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Goodness gracious,
guys, in any way. Although I think some of you should get off your butts and get some certification.
And not to mention the fact that he's the chairman of the Technology Managers Council. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I'm willing to bet Matt is the only one wearing a tie today.
No, I don't wear ties.
You don't wear ties?
Not at all.
I thought you wear ties fairly regularly. I guess it's just all the pictures.
No. Yeah, you see me when I'm presenting. I actually pretend to try to be presentable at that point.
Oh, yeah, that would explain some of the comments I got. But when you're building a rack, if you're building the rack right, you are running like some sort of a cable bar behind the piece of equipment, especially where you've got something like HDMI cables, which like to pop or migrate out, and you're tying the cable down within a couple of inches. And if you do that behind the connector there, they shouldn't be falling out. I think this is largely a canard that, caused by people who really don't know what they're doing when they build their racks, or just a lot of carryover from the home theater folks who don't do any of this stuff anyway and just leave that big ball of wires behind the monitor.
So what you're saying is Tim doesn't know how to handle a rack.
That's what I'm hearing.
Apparently.
So not only does he have to go through his certifications, his chairmanship, he had to use a word I had to go look up.
Oh, nice. Oh man. All right,
Pick on Greg Day today. Apparently,
we're gonna yeah, because we haven't mentioned anything about the other two. As cold as Maine and Mr. Silverman. Last but not least, guys,
we could talk about the weather if you want.
No, thank you. You always win because it's freaking Southern California, dude.
Actually, it sounded like it was a lot of ties today. Another couple months we'll talk more about the weather.
There we go.
I was going to say it's actually a gorgeous day up here too. I think it's about 74, and just there's not a cloud in the sky.
Wow.
Yeah, and how many mosquitoes will be out this evening?
Oh, it gets down to 30 at night, so they're all dead now.
Yeah, that's the part of Maine I love. All right, last but not least, we're going to kick this off or round this episode up with some horror stories or just interesting stories from the start of school. Greg, you have started school already. Yes?
Kids don't come back for another week
for crying out loud. Why do they pay you? Good Lord, do you work?
Don't ask my boss that question. I'm not sure he's got a good answer.
Wow. We've been back for a month now.
Well, we didn't wrap up until the very end of June, almost the beginning of July.
Okay.
We're one of those last holdouts on the quarter system. So, we're about to start our fall quarter for 10 weeks, and then we'll have Christmas, and then we'll have winter quarter, and then spring quarter. So, yeah, we're weird like that out here.
All right. Well, do you have any interesting stories from not quite the start of
I
school,
don't have
but
any horror stories? The one excitement we had, this was for a departmental space, but we did hang our first 80-inch flat panel yesterday.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was for a little departmental conference room, and it was a little bit. It's overkill, but they asked for it, so what the heck? I figure. Great time to learn how to hang an 80-inch monitors when somebody else is paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that 3-person lift up onto the bracket was rather interesting and fun in a weird sort of way. And aside from the great big greasy forehead print that the guy in the middle in the front put right square in the middle of the screen, it was rather anticlimactic.
Good. Was it 3-person because of the size or because of the weight?
Yes.
Okay, because it was still.
The thing is, it doesn't weigh as much. Those Aquas boards are just a freaking metric ton for their size. But this was 80-inch, and I want to say it was over 100 pounds.
Wow.
So the initial. When we got over there, it was still boxed up, and it was in a room down the hall. And I was over there with one of my guys, and we're like, okay, let's move the equipment, to the room we're going to be working in. And we both went over to the great big boxed up monitor, and we each grabbed the handhold on an end, and we both going, oh, okay, maybe we'll slide it down there. Because it was, boxed up. It's like 150 pounds or something like that. It did not. It was we're wimps.
So, Mr. Chairman, being a
you can call me sir.
Sir, being you hold 3 certifications from Infocom, I believe. I'm just curious to know whether you participated in the install or you just supervised.
I was on the stage right side of the monitor.
So you were not the greasy forehead.
No, I was actually no, I was not the greasy forehead. Yeah,
because
we
that
two on each end, who were maneuvering handling the tilt and also getting the hooks in the piece on the monitor into the slots on the plate in the wall.
Yeah.
The brains rather than the brawn.
Well, yeah, as it should be.
It should be.
Right.
All right, Mr. Tyner. Any interesting stories, horror or otherwise?
What has been. We typically have really good back to school because we do a lot of work in the summer touching every single space. What we have had is surprisingly a lot of faculty who have walked into rooms in which we put cameras in over the summer or during the course of last year and have suddenly said, hey, I want to do class capture. And so a lot of responding to that and getting touch panels set up for custom settings for them and getting our video servers ready for them. So it's not a horror story. It's actually something we're really excited and interesting about, and it's kept us on our toes and having fun.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day when our faculty start asking for capture because it's something that we're ready for. Our faculty are a weird bunch and they're still not quite there yet.
And faculty isn't?
Well, yeah, that's true. Mr. Matt Silverman, what is any stories for you from this summer?
Oh, it was a real busy summer for us. We ended up actually, I think, bringing about 75 new classrooms online this summer.
Holy cow.
We had 2 Capitol buildings come up, plus our regular refreshes, and it's kind of funny. Our internal build teams actually delivered ahead of schedule, which was absolutely awesome, and the guys really knocked out the park. Some of our vendor builds went a little bit interesting. On one building, we actually beat the general contractor. There's nothing quite like opening a building when it hasn't really gotten full occupancy yet. And I think we're still staging 24-hour fire watches because the fire system hasn't been certified yet.
Wow.
So yeah, well, but classes have to start, so.
They could wave their bulletproof whiteboards at the flames to fan them out.
Yep.
Or you could just have the students sign a waiver saying, never mind.
No, and I'd say the last one was, definitely finding out about the HDMI cables, but unfortunately, and I hate when we end up in the situation where we had to turn a vendor programmed room on and classes started, yet we still haven't quite finished it yet.
Oh.
So there's nothing quite like about every Friday trying to do a little bit more work to get it close to whole. And, hopefully, we think by the end of September we'll be most of the way there, and then they can start working on getting the back end working. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, I'll give you guys my one horror story. Just like you guys, we meet with faculty, we meet with the deans and see what they want done over the summer. And I have one dean, she's the dean of math and science, have a really good relationship with her. And so we're talking about this, that, and the other, and I'm all excited because I've got enough money to do this, that, and the other. And she's like, if you can just get this, that would be great. I got it, this, that, and the other. I'm doing the whole thing, and she calls me the first day of class, and she's like, hey, did you ever get to that room? And I said, yeah. I said, like 2 weeks ago. And she's like, well, they called and said there was nothing in there. I'm like, well, no. I said, I got, I installed it, I got, room 412. And she stops for a second. She's like, did you say 412? I said, yeah. She said, it was supposed to be 421. So we spent an entire day installing the system in the wrong room. So now we're in the process of ripping it out of the old room and putting it in the new one. I'm doing it on Fridays like Matt is on the other one. So that's my
What a bummer.
I'm an idiot one. So that's that's what you get for I don't know.
It's when your heart just sinks in your chest in the middle of that conversation.
It is, and I just But so it's like, all right, well that was me. That was on me. So sorry about that. We'll get to it as soon as we can. So. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. With us has been Mr. Matthew Silverman from George Mason University. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Where can people find you and anything that you do?
Oh, here, there, and everywhere. LinkedIn's generally the best place to find me if you need me.
All right, very good. Also with us is Scott Tyner. Scott is not only works for Bates College, but is a fine blogger in the world of higher education for Rave Pubs. Where can people find you, sir?
I'm mostly on Twitter, but I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Right. And last but not least, Greg Brown from UCLA. Where can people find you, sir?
Well, I think for the last two shows, I have mentioned an upcoming blog post on Infocom's All Voices pages, and I think by the time this is released out to the real world, I will finally have that blog post posted.
Wow!
At Infocom All
go.
Voices. Mm-hmm. Yeah, first of two, the second one to follow shortly. Both on Infocom. Yeah, both on Infocom back in June. Nothing like prompt.
Timely.
I think. Yeah, timely. Yes.
Yeah. In broadcasting, we would not refer to that as an evergreen piece, Mr. Brown. Speaking of Infocom, Greg and I, along with
we got
Ernie,
some work over the summer to do.
Oh, your guys aren't still back to school yet. You have nothing. Greg and I, and along with Ernie from the University of Arkansas, we're fortunate enough to be a part of the Infocom Today podcast with Brad Grimes. Check that out if you would. It was all about technology managers and the fabulous showing that the technology managers had at Infocom over the summer in Orlando. The largest group, actually, the largest committee meeting that we had in Orlando was the technology managers committee meeting. So
awesome.
It was over 50 people.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And this is one of the things I mentioned in my blog. The number of technology managers at the show. Now they wouldn't give me raw numbers, but the number of tech managers was 8% over last year alone.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. So, and it was the biggest Infocom they'd ever done. That in conjunction with the fact that our numbers grew as well. So good for you guys. It's good for us. Check that out. And if you are interested, obviously the next one will come around before we know it. I think registration probably starts in February or March, and it's in Vegas this time. So that's all I'm going to say about that. My name is Tim Albright. If you'd like to follow me or do anything, TD Albright, Tim David Albright is the Twitter handle. But more importantly for me and everybody here, go to the website if you would, please, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. The fine web elves that do our website are feverishly working on it, so pardon our mess. It's in the middle of a reconstruction. Hopefully it'll be done in the next couple of weeks or so. But that's where you'll find this podcast, our weekly podcast, AV Week, as well as a host of others. So go by the website, avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. This has been EdTech.